quiet the mind and rise above.
Well, good morning, everyone, once again. We will start with our affirmation. As you know, this month it is grace. Our theme is grace, and we have our affirmations, which are I am statements that we align with, and I'll be kind of talking about those I am statements. But if you will join me, and we say these 3 times, not to make them true, but
because they are true.
yes. All right, please join me and do any kind of movement that makes you feel moved to make. Grace lifts me to the heights of my divine nature. Grace lifts me up to the heights of my divine nature. Grace lifts me to the heights of my divine nature. And isn't that so? So this morning, I got a question for you. Can you believe the 20th of January already? No. The 20th of the new year. So, are you woke up? Are you energized? Are you ready? Did you set your intentions for all the new possibilities? Are you living the dream? Are you living the dream? And if you're not, then why not? What's in the way? Because let me tell you, you wouldn't have the dream if you didn't already have inside of you what it takes to make it happen. Right? I know these are questions I've asked myself. Got me a new planner. I was going to do all these goals and, all the actions. And okay, so I'm still working on it. I'm on page 2 of it. But, right, I'm on page 2, right. What is it, the 20th? Okay, but that's okay. And we do that, don't we? We kind of, it asks me these questions. That's kind of where it stops. If I answer them honestly, they can be tough. And a lot of times we just don't want to because we want to blame whatever's in the way on someone else or something else, something outside of us, whatever it is that's stopping us from becoming who we are meant to be. Because if I answer them honestly, then that means I just might have to face all that stuff, right? I might have to step out of my comfort zone. Well, here's the thing about comfort zones. They're not necessarily safe. And they're not necessarily something that's going to give you those warm and fuzzy feelings, right? Or joy. What they are is familiar. Comfort zones mean doing what we've always done. But it also means missing the opportunity to become that full expression of the divine in which we were created to be. That's what comfort zones are. So, how do I do that? What does it mean to live the best version of myself? It could mean a lot of things. For me, it means coming to that place within me and bringing that out, that inner presence. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity movement, states in his book Prosperity, and I want you to hear this because this is really powerful. Sometimes Charles, when I first began to read him, was a little challenging to read, but the more I've understand that and learned it not just from my head but in my heart, he says some pretty powerful things. And he says that within us are the great potentialities of spirit that, put into action, enable us to be, do, and have anything we will. That science tells us that there is enough energy within us to run a universe. Now that's power, isn't it? Run a universe. Can you imagine the freedom to be who you want to be or who you are meant to be, living that full expression? So if living that full expression of the inner presence is what I believe, and bringing those gifts forward, not only for my own good, but for the greater good, if those are truly my beliefs, then why isn't that always my total living experience? What is in my way? Well, what I've learned, and am still learning, is that what is in the way is me. I am in the way. And paradoxically, what is the way is also within me, within each of us. So, if I'm going to be that person, how do I get there? Well, in Scripture, Jesus kind of teaches that his whole teaching. And in John 14, verses 6 and 7, this is one of his final discourses, and he has been teaching and telling his disciples about the way. And he tells them that they ask him, what is the way? And he says, you know the way, for I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And if you know me, you will know the Father also. So, what does that have to do with being in the way? Well, in Unity, we look at the Bible metaphysically for a little deeper understanding, a deeper meaning of the message. And Jesus, when he uses the word Father, he is talking about our innate spiritual perfection when he uses that word. Unity minister and teacher Ed Rabel gives this interpretation that Jesus is the symbol of spiritual awareness, a connection with divine ideas in humanity, all humanity. Therefore, he has a right, and he is speaking absolute truth when he says, I am that which I stand for. I am the representative of this human family. I am the way, because isn't spiritual awareness the way? So there's no other way than by development of the Father within, the development of that spiritual awareness of who we are. So what is in the way? What stops us from opening that door? What is in the way is me, that little version of me that I have. And what is the way is also within me, opening up to that fuller divine expression that I was meant to be, bringing those gifts forward so that I can be that dream that God had of me, that dream that God has of itself, of expressing through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am. Jesus made those I am statements. And that is who he became. What I am statements are you making? I'll tell you another little story. Some of you may be familiar with it. 1845, Ohio. Young girl born into a family of 9 children, strict religious family. And she was told that she would be sick and that she would eventually develop tuberculosis. And so she was never a really robust person. But she also didn't quite believe in the very vengeful God that she'd been taught. So she was already a little bit different from her siblings. She does grow up. She gets a teaching certificate. And she goes off to Missouri and teaches. And sure enough, tuberculosis comes. And she becomes very ill. Now, during this time, we're talking 1850s, 1860s, all sorts of cures for all sorts of diseases are going on. And she reads an ad in a paper and goes to Denton to see because they're supposed to have good water. Now, we're talking Denton, Texas. Yeah, so the waters there are going to help her. Well, while she's there, she meets the man who would become her husband, and within a couple of years, they do marry, and they go off to Colorado, and she has some children. She goes, and they go to Kansas City because he's a businessman, and he looks for the opportunities. When things in Colorado didn't work out so well, he goes to Kansas City. He becomes a real estate developer. And then it's during this time that the tuberculosis comes back. She becomes ill, even more ill than she'd ever been before. And they seek out different healing methods, all the traditional Western ones that were available at the time. They weren't working, and they were told that if she didn't leave Kansas City, that she would not live much longer. Well, they felt intuitively that there was something there for them to do in Kansas City. And so they were invited to a lecture. And they go to this lecture, and it's by, many of you know, Dr. Weeks. And in this lecture, she hears a statement: "I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit illness." Now, Charles, he didn't hear it, but Myrtle did. That "I am" statement, and she kept repeating it to herself. And that changed her life. And that, who I'm speaking to is Myrtle Fillmore, who is, with her husband, founded this Unity movement. Because in that moment, she changed her "I am" statement. And she knew who she was. She was no longer, "I am sick," but "I am a child of God, and I do not inherit illness. I am strong, I am poised, I am beautiful." She has a long statement, and she made a commitment to change her "I am" statements, to change how she saw herself. And that change brought about a cure of tuberculosis. But it was more than that. It changed her, who she was, who she saw, who she was in this world. And eventually, Charles, her husband, saw that too within his own self. And that started this particular movement, the "I am" statements. She spoke that power into every cell of her body, because we know that our thoughts become our words, and our words become our actions, our reactions, and that is what will determine our living experiences, won't it? Yes. So pay attention to those thoughts. Tomorrow, we're going to be celebrating Dr. King's birthday, in observance of his birthday. Our "I am" statements don't just affect us. Dr. King, as a young Baptist minister, he was raised in a church that believed and followed the teaching strongly of Jesus and his "I am" statements. Now, we know Dr. King is one of the most visual leaders of the civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s. But we also know the civil rights movement started in the black churches of the slaves and grew out of that. But they believed in that message of love. And what was in the way, he grew into himself, and he saw that what was in the way for justice, for equality, was hate. And that the only way through that, to open that door, was love, because he knew that about himself. He knew that about himself. And so our "I am" statements aren't just about us, but they're about our brothers and our sisters. And Dr. King showed that through his life, through the work he did. Now, make no mistake, Dr. King didn't just show up somewhere. He planned and he strategized. He knew, he set his intention from who he knew he was. He knows, I am a child of God. I am love, and I am not going to let hate oppress me because I know that love, I am love, can go through this. He lived, he came to the best version of himself because of that, because of those I am statements. But not only that, but helped a nation come to understand that we were better. And we're there. Our I am statements do affect not only us, but our community. So, how does one grow into that? How do I grow through it? And open those doors to that inner splendor, that inner joy, bringing that forth. Well, there are spiritual laws that govern all people at all times. Unity's 5 principles, although written specifically for unity, spiritual movement, they are but reflections of the laws of the universe. Principle number 1, God is absolute good everywhere present. So, wake up every morning grateful. Speak your word of gratitude. Look for the good, because that is where you will find God. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful for being able to wake up. Be grateful for the breath. Be grateful for that morning coffee, because I am. Love my coffee. Human beings have a spark of divinity within them, principle number 2. Our very essence is of God. Look for that in yourself, but also every day find someone that you can see. Learn to see that in each person. Not the personality, we go through the personality. And it doesn't mean behaviors and personalities don't have consequences, because they do. It means, and we see who they really are. We see who they really are. Number 3, I've been talking about that today. Human beings create their experiences through their thinking and feeling nature. Your I am statements. Your I am statements, because every I am statement that you make during the day, you will align with. What are you aligning with? Make a conscious decision to align with the truth of who you are. Sharon Stone spoke about prayer. Number 4, our 4th principle, prayer. That is our creative, highest thinking, activity of thinking that connects us to God, to the God within. We make affirmative statements, and then we go into meditation so that we can listen. Make time every day for prayer and meditation. You want to shift, listen, and you will be guided into that person you were meant to be. And number 5, this is very important too. Action. Because knowing the truth isn't enough. We must live what we know, the truth we know. It doesn't mean we wait until we're enlightened or some measure of enlightenment. Oh, I'll do it when I do this or when I understand this. You've got to live the truth you know. We need your gifts now, not later, because each of you have a gift for this world, and we need you now. Myrtle didn't let that moment pass by her. No, she took that moment. She grabbed that moment, and that became a movement. Dr. King didn't have to step up and be that they were asking him to be, but he did. Not only did he step up, but he fully embraced and embodied that. So it is our responsibility to be who we were supposed to be. Wake up and do that, right? Understand and not wait, but what you know, Practice that now. Be that now, because with each step, we become even more of that expression that only we can be. Only of us. So what's in the way? Is the way. What's in the way, me, is also the way to becoming. Because I am the way and the truth and the life. You are the way. You are the truth. And you are the life of God. So how are you going to open that inner door? How are you aligning with your I am statement? We need you now. Thank you and namaste.